Okay, the second theory that purports to explain elite behavior is articulated by a guy by the name of C. Wright Mills in his book by the same name, The Power Elite, hence the name, The Power Elite Theory. So in this book, C. Wright Mills, he says to Marx, in a sense, he says, you know what, Marx, okay, I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, that certainly these captains of industry have a disproportionate share of political capital and therefore influence in the political system. But he says, you're missing it. There's a number of components you're missing. And this is generally what happens with political theory. Somebody will make an argument, and there's some plausibility to that argument, but it doesn't necessarily explain everything, or maybe it's only explains things for a certain time, or maybe society itself reacts because of the theory. And so C. Wright Mills is saying to Marx, yeah, I get what you're saying. He says, but the elites are not composed exclusively or even primarily of corporate leaders. There are some other people that have a disproportionate share of valued political capital that have a say as to what happens in our society. And he listed 3 others besides these corporate elites, these captains of industry. One of them was top military leaders, military officials. They have, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, what they say is possible or capable. Politicians listen to that. Society listens to that. And so these top military leaders are elites, not just the captains of industry. There's also a handful of politicians that are going to be elites. Certainly, the president is one of those politicians. Certainly, governors of states. Certainly, Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader, and a few people within those chambers are also politicians that have a disproportionate share of valued political capital. And then there's the immediate elite. What we watch, what we listen to, what they say influences what we think. You can ask yourself the question, why today, on any given social issue, why are we at where we're at and maybe not where we were 30 years ago? Then look and see how the media has portrayed the action, what is now deemed acceptable, that was 20, 30 years ago, deemed unacceptable. Has the media changed their view of it, and in that sense socialized us as to how we ought to think? And that happens. You can go back and take a number of social issues over the last 30 years, and you see a marked change in the way society views them versus how they viewed them 30 years ago. And you look at how those lifestyles have been portrayed in the media, or how those social issues have been portrayed in the media, and you see there's the catalyst for the change. So all of these, C. Wright Mills would claim, are part of the establishment. And they are part of the establishment because they enjoy these great advantages in wealth, status, or organizational position. Now notice what's happening here. A lot of these outside of government, media elite outside of government, corporate leaders outside of government, military leaders, quasi-government, they're certainly work for the government, and here's your politicians. So most are outside the government. Now, it's a good theory. C. Wright Mill has. It is called these. Now, notice here I've got establishment in quotes. Every once in a while today, you'll hear somebody disparagingly talking about the establishment, and what they're talking about are the powers that be. So after C. Wright Mill writes this book, the hippie era started talking about the establishment, and the establishment was seen as disparaging. All right, sorry, I had to take a phone call. I think where I was at was they were speaking disparagingly about the establishment, and what they meant by that was these individuals that controlled society. And so the hippie movement was opposed to these because they felt that they had a disproportionate unjustified, disproportionate share of influence, and that we should be able to do things the way we want to be able to do them. So there's C. Wright Mills. C. Wright Mills and the power elite and his establishment, and what is known as the establishment. So on the test, I might ask you, what is the power elite theory? Who articulated the power elite theory? What is the establishment? Look for those type of things to be aware of, to be able to do well in the test. All right, so the third theory comes along, and just like we said with the other theory, these theories react to each other. And so a guy by the name of Max Weber, he's German, so it's pronounced Weber, not Weber. Germans pronounce their W's like V's. So Max Weber comes along, and he basically he reacts to C. Wright Mills' theory as much as C. Wright Mills reacted to Marxism, saying, "Well, you got it wrong." And so Max Weber is in essence saying to C. Wright Mills, "Okay, you got part of it right, but you've missed something." And what Max Weber believed that C. Wright Mills missed was that all institutions fall under the control of large bureaucracies. Whether it's government, the bureaucracies of government, or the bureaucracies of business. So you've got the government. The government articulates some law. Who is it that puts that law into effect? These are the bureaucracies. And these bureaucracies control the day-to-day operation of government. And so Max Weber is saying, you missed it. You forgot about the bureaucracy. And that is an important component about what happens in society. And so these individuals who then control the bureaucracies, they are elites as well, and they have a disproportionate share. For instance, you've got the chief of police. The chief of police may tell his or her officers, go easy on these type of issues. And that has an influence as to what happens in society. You have the mayor, who's theoretically over the chief of police. The mayor may tell the chief of police, go easy on these type of issues. Which brings us to Chaz and to Chop. Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. It's like the mayor just backed off. And so this idea, and have the police of chief just abandon that post. These issues mean something. And so you can definitely see here that in the bureaucratic theory that Max Weber was right. This was a component that both C. Wright Mills and Karl Marx had missed. He actually criticized, Max Weber criticized Marx by name because he assigned exclusive causation to economic powers alone. But the reality is here you can see how this bureaucratic theory matters. Even me, who am I to you as the professor of this course? In a sense, I am Citrus College, because the day-to-day operation of this class falls under my auspices. Even though I've got to do certain things that the institution tells me, Citrus College tells me, basically day-to-day, it's you and me. I am Citrus to you. This is exactly the type of causation that happens daily under this idea of bureaucratic theory. Now, there's another theory that comes along, pluralist theory. If you notice with each one of the other theories, there was a name associated with it. So Marxist theory is obviously Karl Marx. Power elite, C. Wright Mills. Bureaucratic theory, Max Weber. And here with pluralist theory, there's no name associated with it. And the reason being, there are numerous political scientists who have articulated this pluralist theory. What the basic argument of pluralist theory, no matter who is articulating, what the basic argument of pluralist theory says is that political resources, now this goes back to that idea of who's an elite, and that's because they have political resources. So this money, this prestige, this expertise, this position or media access are so widely scattered that no single elite has anything like a monopoly. Not a single one. There are lots of elites, this theory holds. And nobody has monopoly. Government institutions are themselves divided at the city, county, state, and national levels. And elites are also divided. So you have elites who are opposed to guns, thinks that guns in the hands of private individuals should be done away. And you have elites that think guns in the hands of private individuals is one of the things that has made this country strong. You can name the elites in government who think this right now. Charlton Heston. Who is Charlton Heston? Charlton Heston was an actor who played in the movie The Ten Commandments. He was Moses. And Charlton Heston was for a time president of the NRA, the National Rights Association, which is an extremely conservative group attempting to protect individuals' rights to own guns. And in Hollywood, even then, but he was in the minority. But especially today, many of your Hollywood elites are opposed to gun ownership. And so you can see with this example that elites themselves are divided. You got Nancy Pelosi, a liberal Democrat from California, versus Donald Trump, conservative. And one heads the executive branch, the other one heads half of the legislative branch, and they themselves are divided. So much so that Pelosi sought, and it did impeach the president, but the Senate refused to convict. So under this idea of pluralist theory is, yeah, there are lots of elites, but nobody has anything like a monopoly. So this actually bodes well for the fact that in a representative democracy, it's elites who govern. Because there are lots of elites with lots of different views as to how things ought to be. And one of those elites probably is pretty close on most issues to how we feel. And so that would represent us in the national level. So this is the basic gist of what's going on here. It gives us a foundation as to how we'll proceed in this course. And that's where we're signing off for this week. Hope these were helpful.